Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Bri Noble, and I am so happy to be here today with Ralph Tashjian of Intercept Music. He has a very, very long experience in the music industry. It's going to be really interesting to hear, like, from his perspective, where things have gone over the years and what he thinks are the opportunities now for artists. And I really think, at least the impression I've gotten and the way I feel about it, is there's more opportunity than ever these days for artists. But we'll get into that. But before we do, I'd love for you to share your experience over your career of where you started, how you got into working in the music industry, and what you've seen over the years working with, labels and artists that everybody knows. So give us the lowdown.
Great. Well, thanks, Bree. Thanks for the great introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here. This is this is my life, and I'm going to start with yesterday. Okay, I was with some producers and writers and here in Mexico City, and it was a punk rock band that is just absolutely incredible with the most robust socials imaginable. And I was sitting there at this conference table listening to this music and going through it, and I thought, this is what I got into this for. This is why I do this. This is what where the passion comes from. It's like inside, it burns inside, and and I can never get enough of that. And that's the beauty of this business that I've been extremely fortunate to be in for a number of years. Um, I started out in San Francisco as a local promotion guy, working for MCA Records, and that was way back in the day. And what was interesting about that time was we'd get a bag of records, and the company would send them. There'd be country records, there'd be adult records, there'd be rock records, there would be top 40 records, and you just as a promotion guy. You went to every radio station. You saw a tower, you drove over there. You had a record in your bag for them. It didn't really matter, right? So I kind of grew up with that, and I grew up with promoting records and not, not being, pigeonholed in specific genres. I'll never forget one of the first radio stations I walked into was a radio station called KSAN, and it was in San Francisco. And KSAN was probably the leading rock freeform FM radio station in the country, the original. And I went in there to promote a record, and he looked at me and he goes, "You know what? We don't play this record." And he was sitting on Sutter Street and just threw the record right out the window. There was promotion experience, and things were it was just, it was a real characters, real personalities in the business at the time. And I I fell right into it. I was a street guy, raised in a neighborhood in San Francisco, and very fortunate to have had this career. And part of why I'm doing what I'm doing now, people say to me, like, well, wow, Ralph, a new company at this stage. And that's what I do. This is just what I do.
Yeah, it's like musicians. You don't just stop making music when
No,
you've done a certain
no,
number of things or you get to a
no, you
certain
don't.
age. It's like you have to do it.
Yeah, it comes from outside. It's a feeling, and that's really kind of Brie what is a musician needs to have that feeling inside, that passion, and be able to take the rejection and keep going because you just don't know where the next thing comes from. And today, we're in an era that has opportunities beyond your wildest dreams because of the internet, because what's happened, how you get discovered, how whether you could break in Holland or you could break in Japan, you don't know where the opportunity may come from. And that's what's so exciting for me about this business today.
Yeah, I know. I know. And you never know. There's so many markets as well. But you worked with major labels over the years. Uh, how do you see like what an artist's career was like back then versus now? Do you think that there were still pros to that old system, or do you think that this system is so much better all overall?
Well, this system is a lot better overall. There's no two ways about it. The old system, that doesn't mean that you may not have to go to the old system. Let's call the actual traditional record companies today the old system, because that's kind of what they are. You may need to go to them, but the opportunities today are if you break before that time. And why would you go to them? Maybe they have access to video producers that you don't have. Maybe you've taken your career to a level that you don't know how to tap into certain people in order to go to another level, or you want to just stay independent. But if you do that and go with them, you can craft yourself a much better favorable deal than you can if you go to them with your hat in your hand. And by the way, they're not even looking at that and they're not into the passion of this anymore. They're looking at social media, they're seeing where things are breaking, and that's how they're signing things and finding things. Them to develop artists today, they don't develop artists.
Yeah, I was just reading an article about this, and this is like, talking about how uh, there's a lot of people moving into the area of taking an artist from B to C, but who's helping artists from A to B?
Well, the artist has to have the artist, let's just be crystal clear here. You got to have a good song. When you're looking at, 3 million, 2 million tracks a month coming out, how do you rise above the noise? You better have some songs that stand out and some music that stands out. That is always from back in the day to today has not changed.
Mhm.
It all comes down to the music and the art um,
It Back in
first.
the day, did they help develop, like if they thought an artist was good but they didn't have good songs, did they help put them with songwriters and develop them? Whereas now I'm assuming you have to come in with that already figured out.
Yeah, they would do that. Well, they obviously did that with like Whitney Houston. I mean, they heard that voice, and then
Hmm.
Clive was just as clever as he could be and as smart, and he just went and found those songs. But that's a great point, Bree, because I remember when you could take an act like John Mellencamp, or he was John Cougar Mellencamp, and I can give you the record company. It was on Mercury Records at the time. And the reason why I know because we were promoting those records. And they would start with an album because they really believed they saw his performance, they saw him live, they liked the songwriting, and they would commit to that. And you know, the first album might do 50,000 units, the second album might do 150,000 units, and then they'll go to the third album until it broke. And that is artist development, which they don't really do that much of anymore. If you're a major artist today and you're with a major label, that label may have people to go out and find songs for you that you can co and do with somebody else. But the real artist development, the way that ZZ Top was done, the way that even Springsteen had big failures in the beginning. So, but they stuck with them because they believed, right? You don't happen now instantly. You're probably you probably have to go on to the next thing.
Yeah, and now even, I hear they're doing deals just for a single, so that's
Yeah.
even
Well, it's funny. I'm
developing.
glad you brought that up because it's right back to the 60s. We're in the singles business. It's
Ah,
really, today it's a download and a stream, but back then it was just a 45 with a big hole in the middle of it. Really not much difference when it comes to the two things.
interesting. Interesting. Well, so I know that you have recently started this company, or I don't know how long has it been, but like obviously it's to help artists. So why did you feel like you wanted to start something that provided tools for artists?
Well, I've had a very colorful career, as you probably looked if you Googled my name. And this business has been really, really great to me in difficult times and in good times. And I was always a record promoter, and I got really frustrated with all of that because of there was no passion left, there was no love in, it wasn't about it was about making a deal to get a record on the radio stations. That I remember where I was, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and I just said, "This isn't for me anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. That's not what I got into it for." So I kind of took a break and I got really lucky. There was a company called onradio.com at the time. This was 1999. And there were two companies that controlled the websites of all of the radio stations in the country, the big ones, the K Rock in LA, K Rock in New York, Kiss FM, the biggest stations in the country. One was the company that hired me. The guy owned radio stations. His name was Rick Ramirez, and I was his independent promoter at those stations. When he launched this site in 2000, he said, "Ralph, come with me." I kind of learned the internet business at that point. I didn't know it. I had walked away from the promotion business, right? And so we had a great little run. It was in the beginning. It was like we still had dial up things and it was but we were on to something, and that's where I learned this whole internet thing, and that was in 2000. There was another company that did the same thing that we did. In between the two companies, we had all of the websites of all the radio stations. That company was called broadcast.com, and that was owned by Mark Cuban. And Mark Cuban came to the guy that I was working for, Rick Ramirez, and he said, "Rick," he said, "let's combine the two companies." And Rick goes, "Oh, no, I think we can get another valuation." And the next thing you know, Mark Cuban is valued at more than United Airlines, and we're sitting in Scotts Valley, California, and we just kind of went away. So then there was another invention of myself, reinvent myself again. And I just said, "Okay, let's start a label. Now I know what to do." And I started this hip hop label, a West Coast hip hop label. And then that's what's taken me to where we are today.
Mm.
And I had a great run with all of that stuff. It was great. And I was releasing records, and I got the Latin bug. And because of Latin music, I made some friends that were in the Latin space. Juanes, Marco Antonio Solis, and a few others. And they said, "Listen, boy, could we use some independent thing in the Latin space? Because these artists are just getting taken advantage of by the major labels." And what the labels were doing was they were spending all this money on behalf of the artists, but those artists had to give the record company the money to spend.
Mhm.
So, and they were still charging those fees, and the record companies were making the bulk of the money. So that's how I started in this, and I failed miserably. I actually we had a top 10 record with this kid named Miguelito, top 10 Billboard record in America. And it was right when the CD and the streams and the downloads. And I remember it was with Caroline, EMI, and we sold 2,000 CDs with a top 10 record.
Mhm.
And I said to myself, "Oh my God, this either we're going to do something else, or we're going to have to, this doesn't work anymore." So I decided to start to build out an online distribution company to help independent artists. And then I failed at that miserably. I had the wrong developers and I had the wrong people involved until I met my current partner, Todd Turner, who is an absolute tech genius. And what's interesting about that is that Todd didn't know anything about this business when he got involved with me. As I started to explain to him what we would be doing, because I was actually the architect of all of this. It was my vision. He goes, "So wait a minute, you mean to tell me that if we build a site and we distribute music and we we don't have to manufacture everything and everything's global and we get paid and then we pay somebody? I go, yeah. He goes, I get that. And that was how this started with me and my vision and Todd understanding the music business of the tech world the way that he did. And we've evolved from here, from
And
there.
what
And
year
it's,
was that when you started?
well, I started 8 years ago that when I miserably failed with a bad developer and just a complete wrong people, and we started this about 5 years ago. This is about this that to build a company like we've built Bree is about a 2.5 year, 3 year build.
I believe it. And I
Oh
really
yes.
appreciate that you're saying like I failed and I failed again. Like it's hard to admit that. Of course it is easier when you're on the other side and now your company's doing really well, but I think that's really encouraging to artists because, artists, we have failed albums, we have failed tours, and just to know that someone like you has this, long-term career and can see that like it doesn't if you failed once that doesn't mean you can't go and have a really successful
Yeah,
thing.
and if you look at careers over, well, it doesn't really, here's what it is. The people that believe and have the passion are the ones that will prevail.
Hmm.
You have to have that drive. It's not a part-time thing. I've got family members here and, they wanted to put records, but it's a part-time thing for these kids and they've got a band and they want to show their family they got something on Spotify. You know what? And that's not what our company's about, right? Our company is more career-driven. We've built a company that we think is really, well, we know is really artist friendly. But we built something that has marketing services, and it's somewhere between a major and just a pure distribution company that anybody can sign up for and put their music out with. You can't do that with Intercept. Intercept has a little bit of a higher threshold. It's designed for the independent labels and artists that are a little bit more serious about their careers.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask because there's CD Baby, there's DistroKid, there's all these other ways you can distribute your music, but they're a little bit more, like you said, for the person that just wants to get their music on Spotify and they really have to figure everything out for themselves. And I get like a million questions about those distributors because they're not very hands-on and helping the artist through the process. So it sounds like you are almost like a label or, giving them access to all of these different services that they could use. And are you like hand holding them as well?
Well, that was. I'm going to give you a couple of things that are really buzz things for us, right? We like to say it's transparency. It's with technology. It's we have customer service. We have people and reps that actually you can get a hold of and have a call with.
Mm.
Um, our platform. It's probably, and this is a big statement, but our platform is probably the most transparent, especially when it comes to financially and what the artist is owed more than anybody else. We could tell you if you made a quarter of a cent in Belarus with a stream. Um, but that's only where it starts, Bree. And here's what you got to do. I mean, when you talk about, the profitable musician, how do you make money, right? We've created some things that will help you make money. We've created some marketing services. One thing we do that people just absolutely love, and that's why we have to limit what it is that we do to the artists and the labels that are a little bit more serious about their career. We create a store for you, and that store is through Shopify,
Mm.
and you give us the artwork and we create a store, and you could use that store and link and the link and market that on your socials. That's revenue. You could sell t-shirts and make more money than you can in streaming. And if your socials are robust, it's a great way to market yourself. You could use your own merch that you could buy back for yourself at cost and do it as giveaways. So those are we try to be as creative as possible with that. Playlisting, there's all types of different services that we order and we offer, and we think that if you can't market your music at least somewhat, you're going to have a real difficult time.
Yeah. No, definitely. And do you work with artists that are purely digital, or do you encourage them to also tour?
Well, back to the artist being profitable. I mean, it's about touring. I mean, if you can start touring and you could start because what happens when you do that? You could put a business card on the table or wherever you are with a QR code, and you can start to build that fan base in that database, and you make friends. And when you go to a town, maybe you go to a radio station. How do you know? They might play the record. You just don't know. um, uh, Touring is ultimately, today, even if you look at some of the biggest artists in the business, it's touring and merch that they probably are real, real profit centers for them.
I totally agree. I think, as an artist, it's like there's so many things you have to do though. It's like it all works together, and I think that's why you created the tools that you did, because it's like you can't just do social. You can't just do touring. Like it's all like this ecosystem that builds on itself. What did you feel like were the essential tools that you needed to have that every artist needs to have access to nowadays?
Well, I think that the songwriting, I think, is a real important part of all of this, because that's another piece of revenue that can be had. And we also offer things for film and television and sync licensing. But you got to start with a great song, and then once you have to figure out on your own how to build your socials. How do you create followers? How do you make friends? Because that's where your first streams are going to come from. Now, there's playlisting things that we can offer, that you can buy. There's different, marketing services that you can buy to help that along. We've even incorporated AI into our platform, and it's pretty interesting the way my partner Todd trained it. It was you put the information based on where you are in your career. So it doesn't give you anything that doesn't make sense for you, right? I have 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. I have 10,000 Instagram followers and 20,000 TikTok. It'll create something. It'll tell you where maybe you could buy some advertising and help you build those things along. But you do have to have a little bit of money. Marketing is critical.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I love that you're building the AI in there, because I think it is so helpful, especially to get ideas of what you can do on social, what kinds of promotions you can do, or like a schedule. Let's say you have a single coming out or something, it can like whip up a promotion schedule for you. Is that what
Well,
people
we
are
have a
using it
tool
for?
that exactly does that, Bree. We have a tool that
Okay.
you can go in and ask AI, here's my song. This is what the song's about. Here's who I am as an artist. And it'll spit out about 30 potential posts that you could look at, edit the way you'd like them, put it in a calendar in our platform, and it will automatically go out for the next 30 days. And that's so important because artists, a lot of times, don't do that consistently.
Yep.
They're creative. Sometimes maybe but you need to be visible, and I think that we've created some tools in order to help you do that.
Yeah, I love that you have that, because I always encourage artists to batch these kinds of things, because the switching between like the creative brain and then like the I have to do business stuff brain, it's very uncomfortable and it's hard to do on a daily basis. And it's good to just bang out these, 30 posts with the help of AI. And then, you don't have to think about that for 30 days. Of course, you're still going to interact with people in relation to these posts, but you don't have to be like, gear, okay, what am I going to post today? That kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's a calendar. You could schedule them at different times, whatever you'd like. So it's really cool.
That is really cool. And do you guys also help? Another thing I see artists struggle with is they know they need to do video, but they don't really know how to do it at home, or they don't know how to script their videos. Do you guys have help with that as well?
No, it's something that we're looking at that we'd really like to be able to even maybe have some references of people that can help with videos, and a lot of times, I mean, you can do some amazing things for a very little amount of money today, but we haven't done that yet. But that video and visuals and all that, that's so important.
It is, yeah. And obviously you have your finger on the pulse, so you're already thinking about that. Um, Is there anything else well, actually, I did want to mention about AI. I think musicians hear AI and they think about it in terms of AI creating music, AI,
Oh, yeah.
stealing their songwriting ideas. And so then they immediately are like, no, I don't want to hear anything about AI because it's evil and it's messing up the music industry. And so I'm glad you built AI tools in here for the things that it should be doing and can help you with. Do you find you get a lot of pushback on that, or are people starting to kind of
No,
get it?
no, not at all. Because if you don't like what it spits out, you don't post it. It
Yep.
doesn't. And if you don't like the marketing, let's say you want to use it as to give you a guideline for a marketing plan. I've got $5,000 to spend. Where's the smartest place for me to spend that 5,000? Right? You put that into AI. Doesn't mean you have to do it. It just gives you an idea of
Yep.
where you should do it or where it thinks you should do it. Then you go from there. It's
Yeah, it's
only
just
a,
like anybody giving
it's
advice.
another piece of information.
Yep.
I think anybody that lives and dies by it is probably making a mistake,
Hmm.
right? It's just like anything else. It's just information.
Yep. Absolutely. What is your feeling on traditional PR? Do you guys help out with that? Do you think it's still valuable?
We do. Most PR today is online, so we find it valuable. You need to create awareness for yourself. Again, you don't know where your next break is going to come from. Sometimes I've, done this for so many years, and I remember, you know, trying to figure out, well, I have this record, I love this record, and let me make a deal for it. And I think, oh, this is perfect for Warner Brothers. And the next thing you know, Sony's the one that's interested in it, and I didn't even know anybody there. So at PR, it's a combination of everything. I think you got to try to touch as many bases as you can. And that becomes a problem, because it becomes a budget problem,
Mhm.
right? So in the beginning, you've got to really stick with the basics. And maybe that's some advertising with Google or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. And maybe that's how do you build your socials, follow other people, have somebody that does that post consistently. Those are the fundamental things that have to be done in the beginning.
Yeah, I agree. And you can set up Facebook ads for $5, $10 a day that you just have going on all the
Yeah,
time.
it's very, very inexpensive.
And do you guys help with that? Because let me tell you, I
We
just
do.
I just
Yeah,
set up
we
a
could
new
do
ad
all
the
those
other
buys
day.
for you. We could do them all. Yeah. Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We could do them all. We're doing it now for different artists.
I think that is a really, really valuable service because I was just setting up another ad I mean, I've done ads for years, but like every time I set up a new ad to going to a new place, it's like there's so many things that you have to go ahead, verify my domain and then put it on it's not blacklisted list and all these things in the back of Facebook that I think keep artists from using it because they created such a robust tool that it actually has too many choices and it makes it hard to just create a simple ad.
Well, it's almost like the distribution thing. I mean, you've got to try to make the distribution process when you sign up as easy as possible. It could be very, very confusing. And and those are all specialties, right? And people, that's what they do every day. And so it just makes a lot more sense to be able to do it that way. And then you're getting another opinion about it as well. So we do have somebody that's all that they do is our ad buys.
Oh, that's really awesome. I mean, I think, as I say, all musicians are entrepreneurs and we do have to wear so many hats, but we can't possibly be an expert in all those things, especially if we want to create good music and perform well and all the things you have to do that.
Yeah, that should be your primary job.
Yep. Yep. Well, it sounds like you've really created a great set of tools for artists. Is there anything else you want to say to aspiring artists or people that are even like maybe a few albums in now, what should they be focusing on?
The music, don't give up.
Mm.
You've got to be able, it's a passion, it's a love. And people that do this for a living, whether it's on my side or the artist's side, it's a love and you can't give up and you just have to keep going forward. And you have to have an open mind and you have to just have tenacity and not give up.
Yeah, and
That's
I
the
know
best
that
recommendation I can give to anybody.
this is the Profitable Musician Show. Obviously, we're talking about making money with music, but my thing is like the whole reason that you want to make money with music shouldn't be focused on the money. It should be focused on the sustainability of being able to make more music, create a legacy with the music that you've created. It's not about like amassing the most amount of money, right? We're going to make music no matter what because that's part of our DNA, right?
Right,
So we
exactly.
need to have the profit in order to keep it going.
And there is a business behind all of it. It's called the music business. And so you've got to make some money in order to keep going. And that is, and and really if you're an artist, every time you release something, you normally are thinking about the next release and you really feel that the next one is going to be better than the one that you have. How do you be? And if you're not making a little bit of money, you might not get to that next one. And it's really, really important. And you have to try to get a little bit of money so you could help market. That's just, the market is so flooded with so much content that you've got to figure out a way to rise above the noise. We use that term, rise above the noise, because it's very competitive.
Yeah, and it's not, honestly, it's not just the music industry. Like anything that you want to make, known that you want to sell, you want to make money on it. What's a book? It's anything like you have to market, right? So I think
It's no,
musicians push
it's
back. It's
there's
like I
no
shouldn't have to
question.
do this.
Yes, you have to do it. You might hear something where something just fell on your lap. Okay, great. But that's not the norm.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So let them know how can they find you? How can they find more about Intercept Music if this sounds like a set of tools that could be really helpful for them at this point in their career?
Interceptmusic.com.
That's easy.
Intercept, just the way it's spelled. Interceptmusic.com. If you put my email address out there, I'm more than happy to forward people to customer service people and things like that. Um, uh, but we're here, and if it's something that makes sense, but it's all about the passion and the music, and be true to yourself, be true to your career, and don't give up.
Awesome. Love that. Love that. Great ending for this episode. Thank you so much for sharing all of your experience and thank you for creating this to help musicians because I always love to bring on people that are doing it for the passion and not just the business. We need the business in order to keep the passion happening, but you got to have the passion, right?
Exactly. Well, it was an honor, Bree. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.